is October 12th, 2019, and we are in Arkadelphia, Arkansas, working on the plane. So we've had the annual done on November 139er Quebec, and we have a lot of maintenance issues that was found and working through them right now. One of them is this Skag for the rudder, or rudder goes up from the fuselage, and been working on it. So this is, I'm using a Epoxy, a JB Weld Epoxy system, and using fiberglass matting, and I'm laying the epoxy. I put tape on the backside, lay in the epoxy plastic. Actually, it's a plastic material. It dries a little different than normal epoxy. It's more plasticky, and this whole system is plastic. This is a plastic one molded item, and it's cracked over the years. You can see on this side, this is where I took a grinder and I ground down all the cracks down into as far as it could go, where they're chasing out the cracks. And it's easier, or it's better to cut the whole thing out if it's all cracked up and still rotted. So you chase back to where there's no rot, and then making mold, and I'll lay it sideways, and then tape it on the bottom so it has a little bit of a lip, and get this level. I just poured that in there with a popsicle stick, and I just smoothed all that plastic epoxy down, then put the cloth strip, the fiber woven strip on it, and then put another coat on top of it and down. Now it's been sanded. Took a angle grinder first with a sanding pad, and knocked down all the high spots, and then I'm using a hand block sander to block sand all this, and all of these areas in the plastic are cracked, and you can see how far down into some of these this went. And in order to get enough purchase on this plastic adhesive epoxy, I cut down into the material deep enough that it'll create a strong anchor system. So this here got all dry or cracked. So this is where it mounts to the rudder, and this part mounts to the fuselage. It sits up on back of the airplane where the rudder goes up. This Skag cover, I guess, I'm not sure exactly what you call it, but it's 1964 plastic molding, and then you can see how I've carved and I've cut, and I'm going to do some more. I've got a box cutter. I'm going to box cut more down into some of these cracks, but this one here I've already kind of worked on just the one side. So turn this around here. So what I did on this side, let's get a better idea here. What I did here is I ground everything down, and then I put tape on this side, and then I did the epoxy in the inside, then put the fiber woven on it, and then covered it again with some more epoxy. Now the back side has a hard anchor and flat that I now can concentrate on working the outside and getting it all flat and squared and true and sanded and block sanded, work all the outside edges. And once that's all block sanded, I can come back in here and square away again the back to where it's all nice and feathered and smoothed in. But you can see all the years how the plastic, this is where the bolt hole is, so it got drawn in, and this is curved out, so there's a lot of warpage in there. And what I'm trying to do is take some of that warpage out and square it all the way, and square both sides, taken care of. Down the outboard side again, this is the outside. I had to really get into there. You can see the layers of paint that this thing has had. So this plastic gets sun rot from the sun, and the paint and everything cracks, and these big old cracks were just going everywhere. And when I took the screws out to remove this for the inspection, chunks were falling out. So I just said, all right, we're going to square it away and get it all nice and smoothed in and chase out all the cracks. It's a little overkill maybe, but I want to do it right. I found one on eBay that I could have bought for like $250, and I'll probably have $200 in it. Well, I'll have all that epoxy, tools, blankets, the sheets, the whatever else, all the gizmo stuff to do this. Yeah, I'll be into it for $150, but a lot of that is tools and material, so I'll still have some tools coming out of it. Anyway, that's where we're at with that. Ordering parts off eBay, getting everything squared away. Ordered in these static wicks. These go on the end of the rudder, the elevator, the rudder and ailerons, and they're static electricity discharge whips, and these bolt to the bottom of your aileron, and it gets rid of the static charge, and you don't hear it in the radio. And these things are expensive. Buy new from Beechcraft or even Spruce. I wanted $65 a piece for this little thing, and I found them for 20 bucks. I made an offer, I got them 10 of them for 20 bucks a piece. We got all the parts in here. We got our Cirrus ADSB transponder GPS system here. We got some other parts I just sent out. So in here, I just sent out this morning a fuel pump, the mechanical fuel pump on the back of the right-hand engine. I sent it to Oklahoma to get it rebuilt. This here is a starter adapter that got hammered up here and where the cover bolts on, which is this piece. See how these are broke off? This has been doing this for years. This isn't something that just happened. And so instead of fixing it and just get another, I can get one of these from Aircraft Association in Oklahoma for 150 bucks with a new seal in it, and then fix this part and put it back in. But this, I found out through my research, is an older version with this shield. There's a spring underneath this piece right here, this covering. The new versions don't have this covering. You can see the spring in there, and so this is an older, they call it an A-4 system, and we'll go ahead and replace that with a newer upgraded A18 or A-A18 model. Anyway, I found one on eBay, probably had a few hundred hours on it. Looked really good shape. The guy said it's in excellent condition. So I'll have this is the starter adapter. So the starter, this bolts to the back of the engine, and then the starter bolts to this, and then the starter cranks, turns over this little slot here, the starter, then turns this crank, or turns this gear through a worm gear in here. So there's a worm gear right here, and there's a spring behind this cover, spring here. So when you turn the worm gear, it pulls this drive out and locks it in place. So that when the starter's cranking, it's turning this little gear which is turning the crankshaft, which is how it starts. So this is called a starter adapter, and this just bolts to the back of the engine. Well, this cover plate that goes on it, this is where the alternator pulley gets bolted on after that. So it sits kind of like that, and this pulley runs the generator, 25 amp generator. And where it broke is from the vibration, where these two broke dogs are where the alternator or the generator brackets are mounted to the engine. So the generator is mounted, generator is hanging off the side of the engine. This is hanging off the side of the engine, and then starter bracket starter. So this is about here, and the starter bracket, and then what runs with the generator. This piece here holds the generator, and it's all wobbled out. All these holes got wobbled out. I mean, the vibration holding the generator and running on the pulley, and having to mount these mounts onto these two spots. So there's two arms that come from one to the top through these two holes, with this mounted about like so to it, and just the vibration has just kind of broke it. Vibration's what busted it. And so this whole engine's been running not rough, but not in balance. And yeah, this piece here I was showing you, you have no idea. It looks like a toilet roll holder, right? I mean, the guys down to the machine shop, fab shop, can rig one of these up pretty quickly. I mean, heat her up, turn it, bend it. I mean, I'm talking full on at just a local machine shop. You know, it shouldn't take them more than a couple hours. You know, maybe 4 or 5 hours at a green shop to make that. Well, that's fine. So I get $500-600 into having that remade. You know what they want new for that at Textron or Beechcraft? The part, when I put this part number, the part number for this inside the system for a price check, it comes up $8,500 for that little toilet roll dispenser. That's what the generator sits on, and it gets destroyed. The vibration, by the time the engine's TBO'd, all that mounting brackets for the generator are shot. And to replace all that is thousands of dollars. I mean, $8,500 for that little metal bracket. That's just the bracket. Then you got all the other pieces, the screws, nuts, washers, bolts, special spacers or special washers, or plastic rubber grommets that go in on it, just mounting the generator, because the whole generator was cockeyed. I mean, it wasn't straight. The generator was all bent. So when I started taking it apart, look at it, I could tell the holes in the generator where it mounts, where the bolts go through to mount the generator. Those holes were way ovaled. They were ovaled out. So that no matter how you tightened it, tried to square it away, you could never get it straight, because all of the mounting brackets, hardware, all of it was destroyed, basically. Not repairable. So I have to change the generators. I'm looking at upgrading the system to alternators. That's about a $2,000 bill to do that, just to buy the parts. Starter adapter I got for $300, which is a steal on that. Off and on buying. I'll go through a list of parts later, but I've been working for the last week just learning this system and the numbers and where they're at and where to find them and what needs to be done, and doing my little work on it as I can. So anyway, that's it for now on Arkadelphia and November 139er, Quebec. We're Crockett Leasing is getting squared away, actually. So since we bought the corporation, I'm running the corporation, and making all this work. So I'm working for the corporation by taking care of the issues on the airplane is my job. So, and paying the bills. All right, that's it for now. Talk to you later. Bye.